Joining me right now is the former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich. Newt, it's great to get your insights on this. Good morning to you. Thank you for being here. You know, Rudy Giuliani calls that video a smoking gun, you know, of these people pulling suitcases out from under a table. My question that I keep asking is, has the FBI questioned those four individuals? Late at night, they ask everybody to leave the room. Everybody goes home. They say, we're over for the night. Leave. And when everybody leaves, there's four individuals left, and they take suitcases out from under a table. What's your take?
Well, I'm with you. I think there are so many examples in Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Georgia that I'm really very surprised that the FBI has not been very aggressive in going after this. And of course, the amazing thing about the video that we're talking about is that was a security camera. I mean, so it's pretty hard to argue that somebody tampered with it. And so you have right there on a security camera enough evidence to more than switch the state back to Trump, which is why it's amazing to me that the left-wing propaganda media refuses to take seriously all of these different examples. You have an example in Wisconsin where there are at least 200,000 votes that were cast illegally just based on Wisconsin state law. You have the situation in Pennsylvania where virtually everybody agrees that there was corruption on a huge basis. In Nevada, you've got, I think, 600,000 votes that no Republican has even seen because the Democrats in the legislature and the governor decided to cheat. So every time you turn around, you find more evidence. And I think we've even seen Governor Kemp now begin to move towards saying, hey, we need to find out what happened. He moved from a position of saying there wasn't a problem. And I think this security camera pretty well breaks it wide open. I don't see how you can argue that Biden carried the state, given the scale of the security camera and the number of ballots that Rudy Giuliani just cited.
Yeah, I mean, Rudy came on the show yesterday and said that right now they are up to 1,000 affidavits, 1,000 sworn testimony of people saying, I witnessed fraud. And yet every newspaper I pick up, it's the same thing. They say President Trump has still not proven any widespread fraud. I mean, well, we're looking at all these pictures. So I don't understand why the media is not recognizing some of these things, like the individuals pulling suitcases out from underneath the table. So I went to Outside Analysis, spoke with Harvard Law Professor Emeritus Alan Dershowitz yesterday on Sunday Morning Futures, and asked him the question of whether or not state legislatures can appoint electors following vote certifications, and should the Supreme Court intervene. Listen to what Alan Dershowitz told me yesterday. Do you feel that Giuliani has been presenting evidence with all of these videos and these witness testimonies? You said he's got 1,000 affidavits.
Yes, these are retail evidence that have to be determined to be true by cross-examination and witnesses. The unanswered constitutional question is, do they have the power, state legislatures, to pick electors after the voters vote if they conclude that the voters' count has been in some way fraudulent or wrong? That is a constitutional question we don't know the answer to, and the Supreme Court may get to decide that question.
So, Newt, we might hear from the Supreme Court this week. Pennsylvania may be the first to do so. Justice Alito calling on state officials to respond to Congressman Mike Kelly's suit by this Tuesday. That's tomorrow. The suit aims to block the state election results over the 2019 mail-in voting law. Newt, Mike Kelly is saying you can't change the way that we vote like they did in 2019, which went against what the Constitution says.
Yeah, and I think there was a Pennsylvania judge who said that it was an open and shut case, that she didn't see how you could claim that Biden had carried the state. And by the way, Callista and I watched you yesterday with Dershowitz, and we thought you did a great job. And I thought Alan was very effective in describing this. But if you look at the Constitution, the only reference is a single sentence, which says it's up to the state legislatures. It doesn't say it's up to the governor, secretary of state, or a court. It says it's up to the state legislatures. And so the state legislature, I think, could intervene decisively and, for example, could appoint electors who are pledged to vote for whoever wins the final count, but are not pledged at anybody right this minute, because literally, I think in a number, certainly in Nevada, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Georgia, and arguably in Michigan and Arizona, you don't know who really carried the state. And the American people deserve, and forget whether it's Trump or not, they deserve an honest count to have an honest election if we're going to remain a free country.
That's right. I mean, that's why we want to get to the bottom of this, Newt. Do you think this president still has a path to victory, knowing all that you've seen? I mean, time is running out going into the certification process, but what's your take on where we are?
Well, a good friend of mine said they had just reviewed Arizona and thought the chance of his recapturing Arizona jumped from 5 to about 40% based on all the new evidence. I would say with the emergence last night, and this is, to me, Maria, this is what's fascinating. The longer this has gone on, the more citizens have shown up, bringing all sorts of evidence we never dreamed of. You know, a truck driver who drove a truckload from New York to Pennsylvania of ballots, the video from the security camera. Every time you turn around, there's more and more examples. And it's almost like the American people are out there right now being their own election investigators, because the FBI is not doing its job and because they so deeply distrust the government. And I think with every passing day, you're going to get more examples of this kind of this. By the way, this doesn't even get to the question of these voting machines and who owned them and whether or not they were rigged and what did it mean that they went through Barcelona, Spain, to Frankfurt, Germany to be counted. I mean, there's so many things wrong with this election that it's astonishing.
Yeah. Well, it really is. And people need to understand that any election fraud carries a 5 to 10 year jail sentence. So these are felonies for those people who were driving the truck, driving ballots from New York to Pennsylvania. You need to understand the consequences. Let me ask you about the Democrat obstruction, because Wyoming Senator John Barrasso has an op-ed out this morning in the Journal. He notes how Democrats voted against cabinet nominees after President Trump's 2016 win, hamstringing the administration's early days, pretty much the entire presidency, by the way. So many acting people, acting secretary of this, acting secretary of that, because they couldn't get confirmation. Barrasso writes this: Joe Biden has begun to name the men and women he wants to serve in key positions. Don't expect Senate Republicans to forget how the Democrats treated Mr. Trump's nominees. Don't expect the tens of millions of Americans who voted for Mr. Trump in 2016 and 2020 to forget it either. Newt, what do you want to say about this? Should Republicans retake the Senate? Do you expect any of Joe Biden's potential nominees to face confirmation issues?
Oh, I think many of them will. He just nominated a radical pro-abortion person to be the head of Health and Human Services. There are a number of these appointments that are going to have very serious scrutiny, and I have every reason to believe, look, that's the job of the Senate, is to advise and consent, but it doesn't have to consent if, in fact, it concludes that the nominee is a bad person.
Well, we'll see. I mean, it certainly was 4 years of dragging things out, trying to put as many roadblocks as possible in front of President Trump, and they were successful in doing so.
Well, I said, look, I think we'd be healthier as a country if McConnell made clear that if the president wants to meet with Senate Republicans before naming people, and they can reach a moderate nominee that they can agree on, they'll get him through quickly.
Yeah.
But if he's determined to send up a radical or somebody like his OMB director who tweeted lots and lots of vicious things about Republicans, he should not expect that person to get through the Senate very easily.
All right, Newt, great to see you
this
morning. Thank you so much, Newt Gingrich.
Thank you. Thanks.